Yo, what's up, healthy people? Welcome to the IRTC, the I Run the City podcast. My name is Pareo, Pareo. I'm the podcast MC. I'm also Pareo from Pareo333.com. So go and subscribe to the website, Pareo333.com. Follow me on Instagram at Pareo333, Twitter Pareo_333, and of course on my Facebook page Pareo333 as well. And subscribe to the podcast. As always, leave a comment, leave a review, a good one, because the good reviews help. This is episode number 32, and I think we're just gonna call this one Restore, Reinvent, Reintroduce. And this right here. This is more a conversation, right? This is more of a conversation. I didn't have any written notes, nothing written down to talk about. But I do want to have this conversation because I think these are the types of conversations that we need to be having. And a lot of the times on my podcast, on this channel, I'm talking about something that pertains to running. Because that is my chosen movement. That's my movement of choice. My exercise of choice is running, and I think that's I think exercise is one of the three principles I'll call it three principles that I use to productive as I am and as I have become, actually, and that's where we're gonna go. That's where we're gonna go on this one. Back in 2013, when I was not a runner yet, I wasn't a runner in 2013. I wasn't a runner until 2013. I found myself in a place where I needed to make some changes. I needed to make some changes in my own life, in my personal life, and the trailer for this podcast, as a matter of fact, it says something to the fact of that this podcast is about change. And I said in the same trailer, I said this podcast is about change. It's about a change in my personal philosophy. It's about restore, reinvent, reintroduce. Restore order in your life, reinvent yourself, and reintroduce yourself to the world. And in 2013, that was a concept that I personally came up with and have developed throughout the last 8 years. It's 2021 now, and that's something that I came up with 8 years ago. And I've learned quite a bit over the last 8 years, and having restore, reinvent, reintroduce as sort of a blueprint for myself. Creating some boundaries that I personally have to stay within in order to get some of the results that I'm trying to get. In my attempt to create a life of purpose and to become a person of purpose, or an on purpose person, someone who lives every day on purpose and does things on purpose, not just random going through the day in a random manner, or just freestyling through the day, with no actual game plan. When you wake up in the morning, or me, when I wake up in the morning, I want to have a game plan, because I've had the life of no game plan. I've lived that life. Again, this is what helped me come up with Restore, Reinvent, and Reintroduce, because the life without a game plan is not a great place to be. Freestyling through the day is not a great place to be. And what you'll find is you can design your life, and you can end up in a place in your life that is well designed, or you can freestyle through the day and end up in an undesigned location, or an undesigned place. And that is where I didn't want to end up. I didn't want to end up in an undesigned location, I'll say, or my life to end up in an undesigned place. So to have as much to do with that as possible, restore, reinvent, and reintroduce. The reason why I wanted to have this conversation today, outside of the fact that I believe these are the type of conversations that need to be had. I believe these are the type of conversations that we all need to be having amongst each other and with ourselves. Is because last year, in 2020, of course, we had a huge pandemic happen. And the effects of the pandemic on the world at large was unbelievable. Unbelievable on the world. So when you bust that down to each individual person, or to individual families, or to individual counties, or to individual cities, or individual states, when you break it down to smaller groups than the global effect, because it had an effect globally, of course, then you get a lot of different stories. And I live in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas, because it is a city where hospitality and leisure is the money. That's what runs this city. Besides me, because this is the I Run the City podcast. Hospitality and leisure is what makes this city thrive. Tourists and tourism. People basically come into Vegas because they have the money to spend. You take that away, and you got a pretty bad situation. I mean, in Las Vegas, the unemployment rate got up to like 30%. If I'm not mistaken, and I think I'm close to being factual on this one, Las Vegas was the hardest hit city, or one of them, in America, because again, the hospitality and leisure thing. I mean, you basically had that taken away. For the first time in the history of this city, the world famous Las Vegas Strip literally closed. The hotels closed. On March 18th, I received an email, a phone call, verbally, I was told that we were being furloughed from work. Now, I personally went back to work fairly quickly compared to a lot of people. A lot of people are just now getting back to work. Which brings me to my next point. A lot of people are just getting back to work, and we're really able to see and hear about some of the hard hitting effects that this pandemic actually had on people. I mean, this pandemic was gross. I mean, I say gross, I mean, it affected people grossly, and I'm using that word to just kind of be really dramatic about how some people have been affected by this pandemic, and how Restore, Reinvent, Reintroduce can really help in that. And these people coming back from such a rough time, right? Because I personally know people that I hadn't seen since March 18th of 2020. It's already June of 2020. Today is June 8th. Yeah, today is June 8th of 2020. Now, I hadn't seen these people for more than a year, 14, 15 months. And some of the conversations that I'm having with people is teaching me a lot about what happened to people and how people were affected by this pandemic. And that's not to say that I know a lot of people that were affected physically by the coronavirus, COVID-19, aka the coronavirus. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I know people that passed. Although I do know people that passed. It's not a great deal of people, but I know people that were living when the pandemic started, and they caught COVID-19, aka the coronavirus, and then they died because they caught COVID-19, like it killed them. I know people, as in more than one, plural, that died from COVID-19. But that's not, I don't know a great deal of people. I don't work in the medical industry where, those people that work in the medical industry were the ones who really got to see a lot of death and sickness, and were being, I don't want to say placed in harm's way, because they were doing their job. They are considered heroes, and they are heroes. They are heroes, and they seen much more death and sadness and all of the stuff than I did. And so, I'm not saying for one moment that I don't know. I'm not saying for one moment that I know a lot of people that are dead as a result of COVID-19. But what I am saying is there are a lot more people that were affected in a non-fatal way than I realized until people started to come back to work. So, at my job, I know a lot of people. And first off, at my job, there's a lot of people that work at my job. I work on the Strip, and in these casinos, there are thousands and thousands of employees. Okay, let's start there. And that's in each one of them. So I'm not just talking about my place of business. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of employees on the Strip. So at my job and in the city altogether, a lot of people know that I am a plant-based endurance runner at the marathon distance. And so a lot of my conversations are along those lines. A lot of the conversations that I have with people, we talk about food and nutrition and fuel and performance and recovery and I get a lot of questions on discipline and how do you stay disciplined and what can I do to kind of mimic that and some give me some tips on how to run faster or whatever. So these are the type of conversations that I have with people, and definitely over time I have spoken with tens, probably hundreds of people about restore, reinvent, and reintroduce. And this is something that has came up pretty regularly at this point in 2021, especially with everybody coming back to work and trying to bounce back. People are trying to bounce back. People were affected in a lot of different ways from COVID-19. Okay? And for example, some people are a little more nervous about not wearing a mask. Some people are a little more nervous about not wearing a mask. And these people are vaccinated. They have been vaccinated. They just don't trust it though. I mean, to me, that says that says that something was triggered in their mind. Like there's something mentally that happened that is causing this fear of contracting this virus or some sort of sickness, even though these people are vaccinated and they're safe. I mean, the vaccine, based off of what they say, is 95% effective. So if you are fully vaccinated, you're good. You're fine. Some people, they don't trust it. I mean, and before the pandemic, their level of paranoia, their level of skepticism was lower than it is now. And the pandemic is a result of this skepticism. It's a result of this paranoia. Okay? Some people, another example, gained a lot of weight. Some people gained a lot of weight. Some people gained a lot of weight. Some people were depressed, and it caused them to eat more and probably to eat unhealthy. Because some people tend to eat comfort foods in those times of depressions, those times of stress and worry. They tend to eat comfort foods and not eat things that are better for them, healthy for them. Just healthy foods. They eat things that make them feel good right then at that time. They eat foods that make them feel comfortable and makes you feel okay in moments of stress and in moments of depression, and not having a job and not knowing when you're gonna go back to work, and not knowing if your unemployment was gonna be authorized or extended, or the fear of losing your home or losing your apartment. All of these things played a role into people just becoming more mentally stressed, and these pressures that came from nowhere and that had nothing to do with the individuals that may have been feeling this way. So there was a lot of different effects that this pandemic had on the general public, and I hadn't researched any of this. I mean, I'm sure I could have researched the effects of the pandemic, the effects the pandemic had on society, or you use keywords and you can find out specifically what happened in terms of scientific research and things that are official data. I'm only using what I see here in Vegas, being one of the hardest hit cities in terms of unemployment, in terms of again the hospitality and leisure industry. I mean, those type restaurants, hotels, air travel, all that stuff is big here, and all that stuff was really hit the hardest. So it's very easy to get a good sample size of people, and there's 5,000 people that work on my job. These people are starting to come back, and it's a good gauge. It's a good way to gauge the situation and to say, okay, well, I could talk to 10 people, 20 people. I've had conversations with multiple people just to get a point of view, so I could have this conversation without, looking it up, and just talking to real people and getting real stories. And one person that I spoke with that made me want to have this conversation anyway. He talked about how he felt like people were grieving their lives. They were grieving their lives because we talked about the one effect of the pandemic, and it was weight gain. Wow. A lot of people gained a lot of weight over the pandemic. And again, it was kind of like the first day of school. You see all these people, and and you notice. I mean, you notice that, like, wow, a lot of people gain weight. So me and a friend of mine, friend of mine at work, we talked, and he brought up a good point by stating that people were grieving their lives, and when someone is grieving their life, they don't do necessarily instinctively what they should have done. And it's understandable. Justifiable. They do, again, they go to comfort, and they do things that is comfortable. So, eating healthy foods and trying to be healthy in times where you're worried and you're stressing, it's not the brain don't work that way. The brain doesn't work that way. Me personally, for example, I used that time off to really double down on eating the proper foods, because I felt like, and I did a podcast on this same thing. One thing that was being missed during that whole time was, information being pushed out there that says, build up your immune system. Use this as an opportunity to build up your immune system by eating superfoods. Learning about superfoods, learning about foods that will build your immune system, because this pandemic, this COVID-19, aka coronavirus, it was something that attacked your immune system. So let's build the immune system up. Like, that was my response to it. As more information was given out, it made sense to me. Now, again, I also did a podcast on how runners, especially plant-based endurance athletes, vegans, even if with vegans, in some cases, a lot of cases actually, they're more cruelty free. They're more, they have more of a, I don't know if it's a political or social message. I don't know how it's categorized, but their concern is how animals are being treated in the process of becoming food for humans, and that allows them, or that motivates them not to eat animal products. Well, even though that their reason is not necessarily healthy reasons, just by default they're putting themselves in a situation where they're building their immune system based off the foods that they eat. So for me, that was my response. My response was to double down on eating healthy foods and running, irregardless of there being a race or not being a race. It didn't matter. It allowed me to double down on the three principles, I'm going to call them, that are included in Restore, Reinvent, and Reintroduce, and that is a healthy diet, regular exercise, and prayer and meditation. That's where Restore, Reintroduce, Reinvent, Reintroduce. That's where it started. That's where that's the origin of it, was to begin to work on myself. There came a time for me that I knew I needed to make some changes. I knew it. I just had gotten to the point in my life where I had to make some changes in order to stop freestyling through the day and develop a blueprint for my life, again, to create some boundaries that I need to stay within to be productive and to get the type of outcomes that I want for my life and my family and, my kids and everybody around me that depends on me to be healthy and productive and successful and all the things, because it's going to help them. I'm going to be a blessing to them. So Restore, Reinvent, Reintroduce. And let's get into it. Restore means to bring something back to its original state. It means to go from needing to be restored to being restored. And in terms of your life, and in my case, I just went back to ground zero. Okay? I went back to ground zero. This is the Restore, Reinvent, Reintroduce. I went back to ground zero and said, okay, here's the deal. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to become active, but in a very small way. In the beginning, we're going to become active, but it's going to be in a very small way in the beginning. And then we're going to clean up the diet. Now, at the time, I was already a vegetarian. I had been a vegetarian for years at the time. But as a vegetarian, you can eat whatever you want to eat. Or I did. I just didn't eat meat. Everything else was on the table. Okay? I felt like that needed to change. And my prayer life and meditating. I can't say enough about these two. Praying and meditating. And I use this for an analogy all the time as it pertains to meditation. To meditate, or to not meditate. To not meditate is to open your door at the beginning of your day when you're getting ready to walk out and go do your thing, whatever that is. There's just tall weeds you can't see through them. You can get through them. You'll be fine. But you have to move them out of the way throughout the day. Like, get the weeds out of the way. Again, you're going to be fine. But you do have to move the weeds out of the way. It is a little bit of, takes a little bit of effort just to get through your day. When you meditate, when I meditate, 5-10 minutes. And listen, I've not yet did any official course in meditation. I've read a book or so. I have a friend of mine who, is thorough in that area. I've spoken with him. I've had conversations with him, and I've done that. So I'm not sure if, and I'm not trying to come across as some guru or somebody who is, I don't know if there's such thing as professional meditation. I don't know. But I know that when I meditate daily, and I have now for several years, if I don't meditate, I'm just like the average person who doesn't meditate, and I walk out the door and I gotta get stuff out of my way the whole day. But when I do meditate, I don't have to move anything because there's a path there for me. And the weeds are still there. They're not gone. They're still there. They're on my left and they're on my right. But I don't have to do anything with them because my path is there. My path is set. And that's what meditation does for me. So the restore for me was, at the time, I was freestyling through the day. My life was fine. I mean, I wasn't a horror story at that time. I've been the horror story. I have been the horror story too, but at that time I wasn't the horror story. I was just comfortable, satisfied, good job, making good money, had a place and whatever. Everything was fine. But I was living a pretty boring life and it wasn't going anywhere. Life wasn't going anywhere. And then at that time I got some news from work that my job at the time was going to be closing soon, and I had to go find another job and look for another job, and that's something that I can't stand to do, is to go look for a job. It's so annoying to do that. But you gotta do what you gotta do, of course, and I was having no luck there. And yeah, I just needed to go back to ground zero. So that was the game plan. I needed to restore order in my life. My life was out of order and chaotic. Again, not in a horrible way, but I mean, what's not horrible when your life's out of order, right? Like sometimes a person who may work. Sometimes a person who may work for their family business, but they didn't want to work for their family business. They wanted to go to college and become, something else. They wanted to go to college and take up business management and start their own business or go work for a corporate company, whatever. Like, that person will get to a point to where basically you're a prisoner of your own life. Like, you're not living your life. And over time, your life just gets out of order because you're not doing what serves you in your interest. You're not doing what serves you in your interest. You're satisfying everybody around you. So you're a prisoner in your own life. You're not happy. But everybody around you and your family, they're happy because you're there and you're building up your family's business. And that's great, but you're not doing what you want to do. Or you may be a child of a doctor, you may be the child of a doctor and a nurse. Maybe your mom's a doctor and your father's a nurse, or vice versa. And you have been pushed, or you had been pushed for your entire life, that you were going to be in the medical field. You never really had a say in it. It's what you were going to do because that's what your parents did. And that's what you did. You're not necessarily happy. You're happy for your parents because you made them happy. Okay? And they're happy because you're following their lead. You're following their lead. You know, you took one for the team, kind of, sort of. Again, you're a prisoner in your own life because you're a doctor, or you're a nurse, or you're a hospital administrator, and you're working practically at the family business, and you don't want to be doing that. And so that's a little bit of disarray, right? Because you're not happy. Your life's not in order. You're not doing something that serves you and your best interest. You're serving the best interest of your parents and what they wanted. You're fulfilling their dream and not your own. These are the other examples of people who could probably restore order in their lives. These are examples of people who could probably restore order in their lives, and to do so, it takes a lot of sacrifice, and when I say that, generally, from my experience, you gotta go back to ground zero. You have to go back to ground zero, because what you want to do is not the same thing. So you're gonna have to go and start there. And by the way, you know what you want to do. Okay? You know what you want to do because you're not doing it. And you know what it is. It eats at you every single day. You're doing what your parents wanted you to do. You're doing what your family wanted you to do. Or maybe what your friends wanted you to do. Right? Because I've been a victim of that. Okay? In the neighborhood, friendships are huge in the neighborhood. I mean, I would even say sometimes in the old neighborhood, the friendships are so, you put so much on them, they become unhealthy. It's probably not even the best way to be. You know, when you developing relationships with people in the neighborhood, and I ended up in several different situations doing things that my friends wanted me to do. Let's face it. We all, some sort of peer pressure comes along with the stuff, right? Like, again, the relationships in the neighborhood are almost detrimental sometimes. I mean, I've done things to please my friends, and I was a leader in my group. And even still, anyone can be influenced. So you're doing something what somebody else wants you to do. You're living your life how someone else wants you to live, and you gotta put that stuff in check. And so what I needed to do at the time was to start from ground zero. And I picked the boundaries. I picked the blueprint, the borders. They were health, exercise, healthy diet, and divine soundness. That's what I call it, divine soundness, where you're praying or meditating every single day. First thing, gratitude, every single day. We'll get to that. Physically, the physical activity. Walk 1 mile a day. I've told the story before. Walk 1 mile a day for 90 days. Plants only for 90 days. Prayer and meditation daily for 90 days. That was my initial formula to restore order in my life. And I had a whole bunch of stuff going on. I told you, my job was about to close. So I had to look for a job. I mean, I still had things to do in addition to restoring order in my life. And now, and to go all the way back to just walking 1 mile a day, I knew that it was going to take some time to become fit, because you can't become fit walking 1 mile a day for 90 days. So what does that mean? That means I was changing my lifestyle. I was just going to do it one day at a time and build it up to what it has become. That was the plan. And to restore order in your life is the first step to get that done. That's the first step to get it done. So ground zero. Figure out, or not even figure out. Remember what it is you want to do. And respect it. Acknowledge it. Pursue it. Don't be cavalier. I wasn't cavalier about it. Like, I didn't go out and try to run 5 miles every day just out of the blue. No, I wanted to walk 1 mile a day. Which, by the way, and I've told the story before, but I just feel like this is where a lot of people are. Listen, we just came out of a pandemic. So a lot of people could use this formula and start with restore, and this is a perfect time to start over right now, because a lot of people, you're starting over anyway. I mean, think about it. Some of us before the pandemic, and again, I'm going to go with the weight loss thing, with the weight gain thing. Some of us were more fit. We're not anymore. I mean, I would even say the majority of people. I don't. Again, I have not done any research. I don't know what the scientists are saying, the doctors are saying, or the people that do this type of research. But weight gain. I would put weight gain right up there with probably one of the biggest results of this pandemic is people gaining a lot of weight, because that's already a problem in our society in America. It's already a problem. 70% of people in America are obese or overweight. Adults are obese and overweight already. Before the pandemic. So it's not something new. Start from ground zero with a game plan. And my neighbors are jamming. So if you're hearing something in the background, they are, wow, there's a party going on. And it's noon in Vegas. And you know, pardon that if you're hearing that. Start from zero. Start from restore. Go back to whatever it is that serves you, in that you can over time develop out a strategy that is going to take you to the promised land. Listen, I started walking 1 mile a day for 90 days, and it's been 8 years, and it's going to take time, because nothing you do that's worth doing and that's going to bring you the type of outcomes that you want to have, you're not going to be able to do any of that stuff fast. It's all going to take time. Everything's going to take time. A matter of fact, I'm going to break this down. I'm going to do restore today, and then the next podcast is going to be on reinvent, and the next podcast will be on reintroduce. So we're going to do restore today, and that just goes to show that the process takes time. For me, it's been 8 years. I started walking 1 mile a day, and now I'm running marathons. I'm about to do my first Ironman competition. Well, it's going to take a lot to get me to the starting line. It's going to take a lot. But I'm about to do that. And this thing started in 2013. And I was walking 1 mile. 1 mile. Restore order in your life. Restore order in your life. I understand the notion to grieve in times of disparity, in times of in challenging times, in times where you don't know what's going to happen next, in times where you don't know what's going to happen next. You're depressed. Times where you're depressed. Times where you're paralyzed in a sense. There are times when you're paralyzed and you want to do something. You know you need to do something, but you can't. Your body just won't move for you. It just doesn't happen for you. So you just sit there. You don't do anything. I've been there before too. Restore order in your life by going back to ground zero. And you got to be selfish on this one. Your selfishness is going to allow you to pursue the things that serve you. And it's gonna pay off. You can't do what you were put here to do and it not pay off. Be smart. Don't be cavalier, but you can definitely create those boundaries where you're being very kind of positively selfish. And for me, the boundaries was healthy diet, exercise regularly, and divine soundness. And divine soundness in the times of the desperation, in the times of despair, in hard times, that should come automatic. You can't do everything on your own. You got to know that most things are bigger than you, so you should already be on that one. At least praying. If you're in situations where you can't see your way through, then you're gonna need God's help. So you need to be praying anyway. Like that should already be the thing. But of course, it's not for everybody, and it wasn't for me so much as it is now. Over these last 8 years, I mean, I feel like I've always had a decent prayer life, but I've definitely learned to understand prayer and meditation and that healthy headspace and what that does over the past 8 years, because I've been intentional in trying to figure it out and trying to learn it and trying to become consistent in doing it every day and really benefiting from doing it. And as you do that, things come to you. You hit what you aim at. Things come to you. And walking every day for 90 days, out of the blue, I just started to run a little bit. Right? You hit what you aim at. What you set out to do, if it's the righteous thing to do, if it serves you, if it's what's in you, and that's what you're trying to find, that's what you're looking for, that's what you're trying to get to. If it's in you, then that's gonna work out. That's going to happen. Okay? That's going to happen. You're going to be fine. So restore order in your life. And that is the beginning. That's the dot to start the line. You do not have to take major, massive steps. You don't have to take major, massive steps. My life was in disarray. I was feeling like mentally I was battling myself over my life. I was battling with myself. And I set goals where I could continue to battle, continue to look for work, continue to take on the challenges that life brought for me. But I could also fulfill the obligations that I just put on myself by saying I'm gonna walk 1 mile a day. So you talking about walking 10 minutes one way, 10 minutes back, half a mile one way, half a mile back. That's 1 mile a day. I was able to look for work, deal with all the stresses and everything I was going through. Also find some perspective by fulfilling my own personal commitments of walking a half mile a day, walking a mile a day, half mile each way, and eating plants only, and praying and meditating and getting that headspace together, and clearing room for the good things that were about to happen for me. And by December, I started this on September 1st. By December, I had found a new job. I had created an exercise routine. I had got down like the plant-based lifestyle. I was fully invested in it by this time, and several months of praying and meditating daily. Everything began to kind of fix itself and come together, and I began to create this new lifestyle that I now live. And that started with restore, reinvent, reintroduce. So restore order in your life, reinvent yourself, and reintroduce yourself to the world. I am not the same guy in 2021 that I started out as in 2013, for example. 2013, the start of that year, I'm not the same person that I am right now. So for sure, I created a shift by developing this concept of restore, reinvent, reintroduce. I created a shift in my life, a shift that eventually elevated me upward, and I continue to ascend. I'm going up every single day and doing my thing. So we're gonna do restore today, reinvent the next podcast, and reintroduce the podcast following that one. Now is the time to go back to ground zero. Go back to point A. Don't worry about the time. Don't try to do anything major. Small steps translates to massive, massive progress. Small incremental steps every day translates to massive, massive progress. Restore order in your life. Reintroduce yourself. Restore order in your life. Reinvent yourself. And reintroduce yourself to the world. Make the dot to start the line. Make the dot to start the line. Start small. 1 mile a day. Okay, if you're talking about my preferred movement, my preferred physical activity. 1 mile a day. And now I'm running marathons. It's unbelievable. And it works. Restore, reinvent, reintroduce. Okay, and we're going to break it off right here, man. We're going to land this plane right here. Super excited about this one because, again, these are the conversations that need to be had. These are the conversations that people need to have. There's a lot of talk going on the internet right now about a whole bunch of different things. And just in life general, and everything's relevant. Everything's relevant. right? We're attacking a lot of different things from a lot of different angles, and everything's relevant. It's all good. But this is a conversation that has to be had. We know for sure that people are not themselves right now. People have gone through a great deal. This is the time. This is the time for change. This is the time for a change in personal, in a lot of individuals, in people's personal philosophy. It's time to change your personal philosophy in order to restore order in your life, in order to get where you are living a life that is serving you as well as those that are counting on you, that will benefit from these changes that ultimately we all have to make at some point. We all have to do this. This is a process that we all have to go through. And if you choose not to go through it, that's fine. But there's a cost for that too. So not making a decision is also making a decision, in other words. And we're gonna end it right there. Don't forget, again, follow me on Instagram. I post a lot. I'm gonna post today. Follow me on Instagram at Pario333. Please subscribe to the podcast. Leave a review. I have 0 reviews. Come on. Leave a review. Good ones, please. They're gonna start coming in at some point. And you know, this is Pario from Pario333.com. That's my website. We are doing a lot over there, posting all the time. So subscribe over there. Go and drop your email, and when we post, you're gonna get that stuff immediately. You're gonna enjoy it over there. Go check us out. Eat plants. Keep running. And be still. Out.